Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's Livestream Lawyer show. And we do have something slightly different to start things off, which is the giveaway. After my failed attempt to update my wardrobe with some new clothes from YesStyle, there were a few pieces that didn't really fit too great. So we're going to share the screen. And you guys can see the random name picker for the green sweater, which was the most popular item. We got about 9 people total that wanted to enter the drawing for the green sweater. So let's take a look at this name picker website here. And I already typed in the names of the people who qualified by subscribing and then commenting on 2 of the videos and also having US mailing addresses. So we're going to, let's see, scroll down here and it says pick a random name / winner. So let's see here who wins this one. The winner is, wow, Eunice at home. Okay, congratulations, Eunice. I'm not sure if Eunice is watching live, but I will get in touch with her right there. And okay, great. Well, let me post a comment and say congrats to Eunice at home. And please check out her channel. She recently reached over 1,000 subscribers. So she does a lot of like do-it-yourself projects as well as home makeovers and Shop With Me, where she shows a lot of different like home items at Target and other stores. So let me type that in so you guys can see the name of her YouTube channel, Eunice at Home. Congratulations. Okay, so let's put that up there. Okay, great. So next we're going to pick the winner for the burgundy dress. Okay, the burgundy dress was not as popular, so we only have 3 people that wanted to enter the drawing for that. So let me delete the names of all these other people from the previous drawing. So we have Luna Nguyen, who is also interested in the burgundy dress. We have Kathy Castro. She also has her own really fun YouTube channel, so please check out Kathy's channel, which is about a bunch of different subjects. She is a nurse who works in the Houston, Texas area. So she also covers things like real estate and K-pop and Harry Potter, as well as just vlogging her life. And then also Angel Trazo. So Angel has a really fun channel too, where she showcases a lot of different fashions and talks about bubble tea and takes us places in the Bay Area or the South Bay. So let's, from these 3 people, we're going to pick a random winner. Okay, so let's see. Random name picker. Okay, pick another name. Start. Oh, congratulations. Okay, so Kathy Castro wins the burgundy dress, the burgundy sweater dress from YesStyle. Congratulations, Kathy. So, hey, Michael, thanks for being here. Hi, Sincerely Huang. Thank you for being here, you guys. Okay, so the winner of that was Kathy Castro. So again, she has over 1,000 subscribers too. We probably started at roughly the same time. So Kathy Castro wins the burgundy sweater. Burgundy sweater. And I will put that up on the screen just so people can see her name and her YouTube channel. Okay, and then the last item that we have here. Hey, Michael, we missed you at the Content Creators Google Meet, so hopefully you'll be able to join on the next one. It seems like we've gotten a few new members to the group. Okay, so this is for the black dress, the kind of tight, short little sweater dress thing that people actually said it looked good on me, but I was like, I don't have any place where I could wear that without people staring. Like, why is she wearing such a skimpy dress? So I'm giving away the black dress to either Crystal, let's see, Crystal Tran or Sincerely Huang. Let's see. Only 2 people wanted to enter the drawing for that one. shuffle the names. Okay, and then now we will pick the name. Okay, let's see here. Who is it going to be for the black dress? And one of my subscribers who lives in Singapore, she liked the dress so much that she went on YesStyle and then bought the same dress with the beige color. Hey, congratulations. Sincerely Huang, you win the black dress. Awesome. Congratulations. Okay. Congrats. And also, Huang does have her own YouTube channel too. So we will help advertise her YouTube channel here. Hold on. So you win the black dress. So what you can do is you can send me an email. Let me type in my email address, and hopefully I won't get spammed by a ton of people with emails. But here's my email address if you want to tell me what your mailing address is. So how do I put that up there? Okay. Yay. Okay, great. I'm so happy that like somebody who is actually going to enjoy these clothes will get them. And also, Huang, since like you're the only winner who is actually on this live stream, as far as I know, let me know if you also want some. It's like slightly pink colored lip balm that's Maybelline. My cousin gave it to me for my birthday as part of my gift, but I don't need any because I have plenty of lip balm. So please let me know if you also want that lip balm, and I'll be glad to throw it in with the dress. Okay, so there's my email address. So let me know what your mailing address is, and I can probably take it to the post office maybe like Tuesday or Wednesday. Okay, thanks. Thank you guys for being here. Hey, Brian, thanks for being here. I guess you are not interested in getting some YesStyle ladies clothes. Okay. Oh, yeah, there's actually like a Facebook group that Michael and I are on. It's called Content Creators Accountability that Eunice at Home, Eunice Choi founded it. And it's a much smaller group of people who are actively engaged or supposed to actively engage with each other and watch each other's stuff and give constructive feedback. And we have Google Meets once a month, which, I mean, it's not 100% mandatory, but if you join the group, you're kind of expected to interact and help each other out and stuff and try to make as many of the Google Meets as possible. So if you're interested in being part of that separate Facebook group, then definitely let me know, and maybe Eunice can send you an invite, or we could, or maybe if you just go on Facebook, I think if you just search Content Creators Accountability, you should be able to find a group, and then you have to send a request to join the group, and then Eunice will approve you. So yeah, congratulations, Huang. I'm really happy that you won this. That's great. Yeah, let's see. So this is, Liz Edwards. Okay, let me turn off the share screen. How do I stop that? Okay, stop sharing that screen. Okay, in a previous live stream, you showed us Flora Yin, who worked in political law. Do you know much about this field? If so, do you think it is overly competitive or saturated? Oh, well, the funny thing is that even though Flora's like one of my best friends, we've known each other since we were 6 years old in Georgia, we don't really talk too much about her job. You know, even when I saw her in Los Angeles last year, or actually it was like a year and a half ago before COVID. Yeah, we didn't really talk much about her job other than she's always been very politically involved, like worked on different political campaigns and stuff starting in college. So I think her firm probably has fewer than 10 attorneys. And you can see their website. It's politicalaw.com in Los Angeles. So I really don't know much about the field, but clearly you probably have to like join a firm that specializes in that, since it's such a niche area. And of course, I'm sure all the attorneys are on the same side politically. So they just farm themselves out to work for different politicians' campaigns, or who knows what. There are so many laws involved with trying to run for office. So I'm not even sure if it's saturated or not, because I don't even know of any attorneys around where I am who do that kind of law. Yeah, so it's a very much niche field. So yeah, I know Flora is very, very busy because, it's funny, even with the time difference between here and California, sometimes I'll call her at these odd hours and she'll still like be at her office working. So yeah, I'm sorry, I really don't have any like insider knowledge about doing political law, unfortunately, other than that, my friend is a partner at that firm and she really likes it and has really dedicated her whole life to being becoming an expert in that field. Yeah, but maybe you can just like go to their website, politicalaw.com, and who knows, just by reaching out to the people, I'm sure they have their emails on their websites. You never know if one of the attorneys might be happy to speak with you on the phone real briefly, if you're very sincerely interested in that field of law. Yeah. So, okay. So you might want to join later. Your schedule is terrible. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, because sometimes people do feel a bit, overwhelmed with so many like messages. If you join too many groups and stuff, even though everybody wants to grow on YouTube and stuff, there's certainly a limit to how many of those types of Facebook groups or listservs or whatever you want to join. So, so let's just congratulations to all the winners, to Kathy, Eunice, and Huang. So hopefully everybody will give me their contact information soon. And we'll start with something that I forgot to touch on at the last live stream, because I was contacted by one of my subscribers who is a college student interested in going to law school. And he asked me if I could give any tips or pointers as to what extracurriculars he should focus on, because he wants to look good when he applies to law school. And I totally forgot to cover that at last week's live stream. So, in general, you definitely want to have at least a couple of activities that you are very dedicated to when you're in college, and preferably be the president of the organization or vice president, some sort of leadership role to set yourself apart, because they want to see that you're like a go-getter type who is very responsible, that other people have trust in you and you can get things done. So I think working on things like anything to help like poor people or disadvantaged children would probably also look good, regardless of what kind of law you plan on focusing on. So I think also student government was definitely a big thing, because I was involved with the ASUC student government at Berkeley, and you have to run for Senate, or you have to run for, the different positions like, president, vice president, secretary, and treasurer. And so that was kind of fun and interesting. I think we did kind of ruin the environment, though. I don't know if they're still doing that anymore, where people pretty much have to print out tons and tons of flyers, and then you put them all up on the bulletin boards and all over the whole campus, and then you hand out your flyers when you're out on Sproul Plaza. There's paper galore. So actually, one of my friends, the one who wound up being an EEOC judge now, she had this novel idea back then of having recycling boxes along with her campaign. So she was collecting all of the campaign flyers that nobody wanted to keep after they had just gotten it and read it and stuff. So that was her campaign thing that set her apart. And of course, she did get elected to student government. So I would say student government, any activity that puts you in touch with the local community around your college that helps, disadvantaged children or anybody in need, or, helping immigrants. Those are all sorts of activities that I did when I was at Berkeley. And there was no shortage of activities. There were just so many student groups that you could get involved in. And I also wrote for the school newspaper and was the news editor for an Asian American magazine on campus. And I started my own SAT prep class one summer with another Berkeley student who was pre-med. And so we advertised our SAT prep course free, to all of the local Berkeley students in the area. And, a group of my friends and I also helped to mentor and tutor a lot of low-income Vietnamese children in the Oakland area. So that was another activity that I did. And there are just like so many things that you can do as long as you have some sort of leadership role. I think that will really make you look good. And, this does put like lower income college students at a disadvantage, though, because, I don't think it looks as impressive if you did like any regular job because you had to make the money. Like, let's say you worked in the school library, or, you worked at a cafe, fixing sandwiches or making coffee or something. It's kind of sad, but those kind of mundane jobs probably aren't as impressive with the admissions committees. I'm just guessing, but there is also the opportunity always when you apply to law school to include a personal statement where you can just tell your life story. If you come from a poorer family, or you've had a really tough upbringing, or any sort of hit any bumps in the road or anything you want to explain, then there's your chance in your personal statement. But ideally, you should have at least 2 other extracurricular activities. And then once you get into law school, though, it totally switches around, though. When you get into law school, you really shouldn't be distracted by extracurricular activities. And that was I think that was one of my problems, was that I just spent too much time outside of the law school campus doing other like community activism and things, when really once you're in law school, you have to really buckle down and be serious. It's all about the grades and whether you get on law review. So the only extracurriculars you should really focus on once you get into law school would be law review, if you get on one of those staffs. And I do have a video, which not many people have watched, about what is law review. And then there's also the moot court team, or moot court team, or like trial advocacy team. That's another thing that most law schools have as an optional activity, but you have to try out for it. And it's only like the best of the best, like people who are especially good at thinking on their feet and speaking and arguing. Like if you've done debate, that'll help. So I did try out for that at my school, but didn't get on the team. So that's also very impressive. But even in law school, there were like all these other activities, like, ethnic, groups. Like we had the Asian Pacific American Law Students Association. There's a Black Law Students Association. There's like intellectual property law students group. And some of my friends were active in the Gilbert and Sullivan group, which is the musical and music and acting group for law students, which I think is a huge distraction, because later on my friends did tell me when they were doing this like production of Into the Woods, and she was telling me how they had to like stay and practice past 10 o'clock at night, and she was so exhausted. And I'm like, why are you doing that? You're in law school now. We need to really focus on our studies. So I really think that these like extra activities and stuff really are a huge distraction in law school. It's time to buckle down, the time to have fun and party and make friends and socialize, all that dating fun and stuff. That was in college. But once you get to grad school or law school, it's really serious. It can totally, set the tone for the rest of your career, or at least the beginning part of your career. So I wouldn't worry much about extracurriculars like writing for the school paper, or being on the law school student government, or whatever, like that musical acting group that I was telling you guys about. Yeah. Hey, Kayak 7 Seas, thank you for being here. Excellent channel there where he shows us all these views of his trips out kayaking. So thanks for being here. So I don't know if anybody else is still out there and has other questions about the extracurricular activities, but that was a question that was posited by another subscriber. And I don't think he's actually watching right now, but hopefully that was some help. So the next topic of discussion that I had on for today was employment law, practicing employment law, because that is an area of law that I've practiced for probably like 20, going on 21 years now. So it's always been a part of my practice. I focused more on employment law at the last law firm I worked at before I started my own practice. And I've always been happy to do more employment, or specifically employment discrimination cases. But I've mentioned before that it is really hard to find good cases. It's, there's just like so many people contacting you. Everybody gets fired or feels like they were improperly written up or put on a performance improvement plan, or being picked on, or being harassed. But the question is whether they have a legally viable case. So, from this huge pool of people, calling and sending emails through my website, then even a smaller portion of them are willing to pay for a consultation, which, as far as I know, all of the plaintiff side employment lawyers that I know of in the whole state, we all charge for consultations. It's very, very rare for you to find an employment lawyer that's going to give free consultations. That's mainly for, firms that do personal injury, auto accidents, Social Security disability, and workers' comp cases, but or criminal or traffic cases. Those types of attorneys do normally give free consultations, but everybody else, people have to get paid for their time. So, okay. Hey, Liz, how do you get picked to be on a law review? Would it help if you have experience working being the chief editor of an undergraduate journal? Oh, okay. Well, usually every school has at least one law review, and a lot of the schools have multiple law reviews, but you still want to be on the main one because that's the most prestigious and the most the one that's the hardest to get on. So it's usually they will either base it on grades or on grades plus a write-on competition. So I remember at Georgetown, I'm pretty sure for Georgetown, it might have been like if you were in a certain top percentage of the class, then you were automatically given a spot on the main law review. But then there was also a competition that took place at the very end of your first year of law school where you have to write a brief, like a huge persuasive appellate brief. And you're given like a deadline. I can't remember how long it was. It might have been like almost a week where you had to bring this huge packet of papers home and read through all the cases and then write an appellate brief about some constitutional issue. And then you had to turn it in within a week. Then the people that were already part of the law reviews would end up reading through all of the submissions and then rank them and see if they were willing to give you a spot on their law journals. Or law journal is the same thing as a law review. So it is kind of tough. And it's something that you just have to do because it looks really good on your resume to be on a law review or even become the editor-in-chief or one of the editors. But as far as I know, they don't care if you had any experience writing or being the editor of anything in college. It's all just either based on grades or grades plus the competition, the writing competition that you have to take part in when your first year final exams are over. Yeah, so there are some people who they try out for the law review and then they don't even get picked for any one of them. At Georgetown, I'm pretty sure they have about 8 different law journals. So I got to be on the International Environmental Law Review and I was a note editor there. But I do remember hearing about a few classmates who, unfortunately, I guess nobody wanted them or they didn't write well enough or something, so they didn't even get a spot on any of the law journals. So it's something that looks like a big gap on your resume if you don't even have any sort of law review experience. So it's just kind of like, it's not fun. Definitely, in my video, I said it was sort of like drudgery because you're not working with other people, even though there is like physically an office at the law school student activities office for each law journal. But a lot of it was just kind of solitary work where you had to look up all the cases that the person was quoting in their law journal submission and make sure that they were quoting it correctly and everything was cited correctly. So, yeah, it's just yet another activity just to pad your resume so you can try to get a decent job later on. Yeah, so hopefully I answered your question. Okay, yeah, but getting back to employment law though. So yeah, employment law is actually a very broad term. So there are many different aspects to employment law, but the areas that I focus on mainly are the employment discrimination cases where people have alleged that Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 have been violated, as well as, Americans with Disability Act and the Equal Pay Act. So let me get some water here real fast. So what happens is that typically if someone feels that they have been discriminated against, they either call the attorney and try to schedule a consultation, or the place that I would like to tell people about, I think most people already know about this, but it is the EEOC. The EEOC is the U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. And here's their website. It is eeoc.gov. Yeah, so their website has just gotten so much better over the last few years, and all the information is here. It tells you about the history of the EEOC. This is the federal government agency that is in charge of enforcing the Civil Rights Act, and it's also a requirement. So before you can even file a lawsuit alleging, Title VII employment discrimination claims, you have to exhaust your administrative remedies. That means that you have to file a charge within 180 days of the alleged discriminatory act with the EEOC. And the EEOC has tons of different field offices. Here in North Carolina, we have one in downtown Raleigh, and then we have another one in Charlotte. So, here under Contact Us, you can find your nearest office, and get the information with their phone number and their address and stuff. Although I have heard that, typically it's really hard to just talk to somebody on the phone, but fear not. The nice thing about this being all online is that where it says employees and job applicants, there's also a link that gives you all the information about filing a charge of discrimination with the EEOC. It says, if you believe you have been discriminated against at work because of your race, color, religion, sex, including pregnancy, gender identity, and sexual orientation, that's actually pretty new. National origin, age 40 or older. See, anybody 40 or older is considered old for the purposes of the law. Disability or genetic information. You can file a charge of discrimination. A charge of discrimination is a signed statement asserting that an employer, union, or labor organization engaged in employment discrimination. It requests EEOC to take remedial action. Okay, so you definitely have to go through the EEOC before you can file a lawsuit alleging these federal violations. And now they have a way where you can initiate the charge, or at least first contact them through their website. And after you contact the EEOC, eventually your case gets transferred over to an investigator that works within that local office. And I've heard from some people, I don't want to say anything negative. I mean, this is like an area of law that I constantly practice in. So of course, I'm not going to say anything bad. I mean, I think the director there is a really awesome guy, Tom Coakley. He has actually come and spoken at many of our plaintiffs' employment lawyer group meetings or continuing legal ed classes. And some of the investigators are better than others. And, oh, okay, what's going on? Okay, I don't know. Michael, why are you crying? Okay, I'm not really sure what that meant. Okay, hopefully it doesn't mean that you need to file a charge of discrimination against a former employer. Oh, okay, great. Thank you for being here, Brian. It's really makes me happy to see that, regular people outside of, people thinking about going to law school or other attorneys. Actually, it's funny that I feel like that there really aren't that many attorneys that watch my stuff. Isn't that kind of weird? I guess they're all too stressed out and tired and they don't have time to be searching on YouTube or, I don't know. Actually, I did get a really nice email just today. I checked one of my email accounts, and an attorney who had also graduated from Berkeley and Georgetown Law wrote to me from California and said that she really liked my channel. And that's really nice because I never even heard from this person. Like I've never seen a comment from her unless she has a different screen name or something. Oh, you consider pursuing law after interning at HHS this past. Oh no. Okay, well, yeah, if you've seen my videos, don't go unless you get into a really, really top law school. Yeah, don't be suckered in by those, like all those other law schools around the whole DC area or whatever. It's just not a very surefire way of getting into tons of debt. Yeah. Thanks, Duke. Thank you for being here again. Hey, Min, thank you for being here. Please check out Min's channel also. And connecting lawyers from all over. Yeah. I mean, sometimes I do hear from other attorneys and it's really nice, other than that one, maybe a couple of attorneys that seem kind of like annoyed at stuff that I had said about not going to law school. So I just enjoy listening to something different than what I know. It gives me a new perspective on things. Yeah. I mean, that's what it should be, right? You should spend your whole lifetime trying to learn new things and knowing more about the world and how the legal system works. And, God forbid you should ever run into legal problems or something, but hopefully somebody picks up something useful from my show. Yeah. Thank you, Hong. I appreciate your support. So getting back to this filing a charge of discrimination thing. So what happens is, like, you have to file your charge within 180 days of the alleged discriminatory conduct. So that would mean, either getting terminated or you got demoted or the terms of your employment got changed, you were retaliated against, something like that. So after your case gets assigned to an investigator, then eventually the investigator will contact you and ask you a lot more questions about what happened. And normally the investigator will help the person draft up the formal charge of discrimination, which is like a very brief form. And I mean, as an attorney, I usually don't like it though, because sometimes I see these people well after the fact, after they've already filed their EEOC charges, and I'm like, okay, well, where's your charge form? And then it turns out that either they or the investigator only wrote in like 2 sentences, like, my employer has violated the Civil Rights Act or, discriminated against me in that blank, and then they just only have like 1 to 2 sentences that doesn't even sound like anything that would be found to be a solid discrimination case. So that's why I do feel like, if you do feel like you have been discriminated against by your employer, you really should consult with a plaintiff's employment attorney as soon as possible. Don't wait till the last minute, or wait till you get your right to sue letter or something. Hey, Dr. Seth, thank you for being here. I'm sorry I missed your live stream today. Yeah, Dr. Seth has a great financial channel. So yeah, getting back to that, I just feel like there's just like so much to discuss because I see so many like botched up cases when it finally gets to me. And it's like, okay, well, how am I supposed to fix all this? Because your charge of discrimination like makes it sound like you have no case, or you didn't get all of the important, vital, legally relevant facts squashed into your charge of discrimination. This is too general and makes you sound dumb. I mean, I have to like sugarcoat my words and stuff, but sometimes I have to give people the bad news that, look, I can't take this case. Sometimes people contact me and they're like, oh, I already got my right to sue letter. I couldn't find any attorneys, and my right to sue letter deadline runs out in 2 weeks, and I'm like, well, I can't help you because I don't have time to read through everything, read through the whole file, even get the investigative file from the EEOC, and then interview witnesses and draft up a federal lawsuit within 2 weeks. It's much better for people to just go ahead and have an attorney, or at least consult with an attorney as soon as you feel like you might be going to the EEOC to file your charge. Yeah. So, okay. So Liz is asking, in your opinion, would it be worth it to go to a middle tier law school, or do you only recommend going to the top 14? Yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, I would lean more towards only going to the top 14 just based on my own experience as well as my relatives and my friends' experiences. But certainly there are a significant number of people who go to, just average level, middle tier law schools, and they manage to find jobs and do well. But then at the same time, there's a ton more people who can't even find decent jobs or can't find jobs when they graduate. And it would just be really terrible to have spent like $200,000 to $300,000 on tuition and lost wages, to come out and not even be able to get a decent job or wind up doing document review. So, I'm just trying to think, like, what would a middle tier law school be like? Maybe like, I don't know, like American University or University of Maryland, or, well, yeah, definitely there are a lot of like average law schools. So I would say it depends, that's the lawyerly answer, right? It depends also on whether your family is going to foot the bill or whether you have the cash on hand to pay for all your law school tuition. Is it a public school versus a private school? Do you have a spouse that can also help you financially while you're in law school? Like, who's going to pay for it? Because I think if it's a middle tier law school, it sure isn't worth taking out more than like $100,000 in law school debt to go with that chance that you might not, get a decent job. And of course, it also depends on, what kind of job are you doing now? Like, are you in college right now? Or do you have like a nice, decent, white collar professional job already that you would be giving up to go to law school? So it is pretty kind of risky, I think. It just all depends. Like, let's say you go to law school, but you can't find like a well-paying job after you graduate, then what's going to happen? Like, would you have parents that can bail you out or a spouse that can help you pay all that law school debt back? Otherwise it's going to be a huge struggle having the debt that you can't just discharge or get away from. So I definitely recommend, like, let's say you can't get into the top 14 law schools. Well, whatever you do get into, I think it would be really helpful to try to find like Reddit or Facebook groups or some way to contact people who are third-year law students there at that school that you get into. or find some way to reach out to recent graduates, like people that graduated within the last 5 years. And, it's probably pretty easy to find those people either through Google or LinkedIn or something, to find them and see if they're willing to talk to you, to just have even like a 10-minute phone call with someone that recently graduated from those schools, and ask them, what was the job situation like for you and your classmates, and what are you doing now? And have you heard of, any of your classmates just, not being able to find legal jobs or something? Because that's the real danger there. It has the possibility of potentially, really messing you up financially if you can't get a decent job after spending so much time and money and all your, your brain power and 3 years lost of your life, if you can't find a decent job. So, yeah. So the answer is, it depends, really. Yeah. But I always say, avoid going to those high-priced private schools that are low ranked. Yeah, those are typically a big risk. Yeah, and Ken says, how much is a consultation? Oh, okay. So for my consultations, I charge, quote, only $250 for up to an hour. And if it takes significantly less than an hour, then I might prorate it or just cut the consultation fee in half. But I definitely charge for consultations. And I've heard of some attorneys in my area who charge something closer to like $350 or $400 for an initial consultation. So it depends on your location, because I know in the DC area, the lawyers, at least the divorce lawyers, I know this because I have a relative that lives in the DC area and had to look for a divorce lawyer. Yeah, that attorney was charging at least $500 an hour. And there were even attorneys in the DC area that would say you had to have at minimum like $10,000 to $12,000 on retainer with them at all times. So the amount of money that they held in their trust account could never dip below that $10,000 to $12,000, and they were going to bill you by the hour too. Yeah, and that, in a way, I mean, I've never done anything that excessive, but I can see why, because I've run into some problems where I asked for too small of a retainer deposit, and then the person was very high maintenance, or the person on the other side had a very litigious attorney, and, everything turned out to be a total mess. So then the retainer deposit got run down really quickly. And then I'm like telling the client, hey, I need another, whatever it could be, another $3,000, another $4,000 retainer deposit from you. And I give them a deadline. But then sometimes people just, hem and haw and drag it out and, say that they don't have the money. And it's just like such a drag. That's why, the more experienced attorneys definitely do charge more and more, once they get that stream of clientele. They're not going to play around with somebody that balks at even providing, $5,000 up front. Yeah. So, and then I do know I've heard of some like younger attorneys that are willing to give consultations for $99. And once in a blue moon, I do hear about usually it's a younger attorney who is willing to give like a free family law consultation or something. Yeah. But in that respect, I do feel like that old adage, you get what you pay for, is mostly true. I don't think I charge as much as other attorneys with a similar level of experience. But on the other hand, I do know for a lot of people, $250 is a lot of money. So, yeah, it just really varies, but definitely, if you need an attorney, I don't think you would want to find somebody that advertises on Craigslist or says, hey, free consultation, even if it's like for a field of law, like employment law or family law, where normally attorneys, especially the better attorneys, do charge something for the consultation because it's still taking up their time. Yeah. So what all is involved in the consultation? Well, let's see. Well, since we're talking about employment law today, normally for an employment law consultation, it's a lot of active listening. I would say the first time that I talk to somebody, like asking them what happened, who are your witnesses, what did the employer allegedly do, or what did management do, who did you complain to, do you have any of this stuff in writing? Just find out the whole detail of things. Like, Yeah, it's really hard to like give examples because just within the last week or so, I got an email through one of the divorce attorney listservs that I'm on, and the state bar is thinking about passing a new professional rule of conduct, basically saying that attorneys can't talk at all about their cases, even if it was like an old case, or even if the information is public record, you can't talk about it with anybody else unless the client specifically gave you permission to. So I do feel like I'm walking a fine line here where I would like to entertain people and give helpful information. But then on the other hand, it's always like, okay, well, I have to make it very, very vague and general so that the person cannot potentially be identified. But yeah, so I guess I can't give any examples now. But so normally the consultation has a lot to do with the potential client doing most of the talking, like telling me the whole story of what's going on with work, why he or she feels like he or she is in a hostile work environment, or was wrongfully terminated, or were there any other coworkers that did similar things that didn't get written up or didn't get fired for that. I'm just trying to get a feel for whether we actually have something that's actionable, like a real viable legal claim. Because in general, at least in my state, North Carolina, employment is at will. The employer can just call you up one morning and say, you're fired, don't come in, bye. They don't even have to give you an excuse, or they don't have to give you a reason. They can just fire you for whatever. But on the other hand, if you feel that you were fired because, say, you complained about, OSHA violations, or you were fired in retaliation for having a workers' comp case, or you were fired because you spoke up about, some racist comments that were being made by other people, there could be some other types of situations where you might have a legally viable claim, but it is kind of an uphill battle because of the fact that, employment in general is at will, and it's up to an employer to decide if your work was good or not. So sometimes I have people who tell me, oh, well, everybody said I was like the best worker there, and I worked really hard, and I had all these positive reviews, and I have all my coworkers that will vouch for me and say how good I was the best worker, blah blah blah. And then I'm like, yeah, but your manager didn't think you were a great worker, right? And if they normally, bigger companies will have periodic reviews, like annual reviews, where the person gets something in writing that rates them on different kinds of objectives. And if the manager thought that you were a slacker, or you needed to improve in all these areas, and the manager wasn't happy with you, well, that's what counts. It doesn't matter that the people at your same level, your fellow coworkers, thought you were great and really loved you and stuff. What matters really is the management's objective or subjective, view of how great your work performance was. So that's why, another reason why it's hard to get a really good discrimination case. Yeah. Oh, people love to disappear when it's time to pay. Yeah, yeah, that's right. Well, I think Min is a realtor in Florida. Yeah, right. So hopefully you don't get too many people that waste your time. But I do get this feeling that realtors also run into the same problems, where people just want to get your opinion on everything. And then you drive out there and you do all this work hoping to get the contract, but then they don't even want you as their realtor, right? Like, I'm just assuming, based on my experiences and talking with other realtors and stuff, that, yeah, everywhere, no matter what profession you're in, if you're self-employed or, you're doing customer service, you do occasionally run into cheapos who just want to use you for all you're worth and then not pay you for your time. Hey, Kathy, did you see that you won the dress? You won the burgundy dress. So congratulations if you didn't see that at the very beginning. Okay. So send me a Facebook message or an email and let me know what your mailing address is, and I'd be glad to send it out to you within the next couple of days. So congratulations. Okay, so we're kind of jumping around here. Okay, from burgundy sweater dress to transactional law. Okay, transactional law, more difficult to get into than litigation. No, actually, I don't think so. Yeah, I hear litigation is more in demand, so transactional work is reserved for graduates of the. No, I don't think so. It just really depends on where you wind up getting a job and what your interests are. And oftentimes you don't even really know as a law student, like what you really, really want to do, because I was all over the place when I was a law student. And towards the end, it was like, I just want a job. I'd be happy to do any sort of job, as long as it's a real lawyer position. Yeah. So I don't think it's any more difficult to get into. Not every attorney position is going to require going to court and litigating and arguing and dealing with clients all the time. You might be more like the type of lawyer that sits around, pushing paperwork and doing say like appellate work, or doing a lot more document heavy type work that doesn't require actually going to court. Yeah. So hey, okay, I think your name is Joe, right? Yeah. Okay, so please check out Physician Finances and Investing. Really great YouTube channel where Joe is getting more and more subscribers. And I think we met, where did we meet? Was it Annie's Fam or one of those like small YouTuber support groups? Yeah, but I'm not even in those Facebook groups anymore. It was too overwhelming. So yeah, thank you for being here. Hey, Kathy. Okay, yeah, I'm really glad that you won. It's always nice when, because there are some people that entered the giveaway and I was like, oh, I wonder if they just searched for YesStyle giveaways and they don't really want to stay subscribed to me. And so I'll probably get a bunch of people unsubscribing from me tonight or tomorrow. Yeah, but congratulations to Kathy. Yeah. Okay, so anyway, we're back here with the EEOC website, which has all the information. And this EEOC public portal thing is something new that they just started doing within the last few years. And I think it's really great because now both the former employee, or they call it the petitioner. Yeah, the petitioner as well as the attorneys, everybody can just log into this EEOC public portal to see the status of the case. So when I log in, then I can see all the EEOC cases that I have going on, what the status of that case is, and all the things that were filed in the case. So that's really important because I'm also one of the few attorneys in the state of North Carolina who handles federal EEO cases for federal employees. So it's like a really great, like a repository online for all the filings in each of my clients' cases, because some of these cases really take a long, long time to get through the system for the federal employees. It could take like more than 2 to 3 years if you even get to a hearing. So sometimes it is tough to kind of refresh your memory, like, okay, what's going on with so-and-so's case? And we're still waiting for the judge to issue a decision on a motion for summary judgment, or, we're still waiting on something from the EEOC because they're so backlogged. They definitely need to have more staff and more attorneys. Yeah, and one thing I haven't mentioned before is that the EEOC does have attorneys working for them, but it is very rare that one of their staff attorneys will take on someone's case, though. By and large, people tend to file their charges of discrimination and go through the process of the investigation without an attorney. And I would say that if your case is recommended for mediation, then that's definitely time for the person to hire an attorney, because you don't want to just go into the mediation without even any legal counsel whatsoever. And for cases that are extremely egregious, then there's a chance that the EEOC will put a staff attorney on the case. So that way the person doesn't actually have to hire their own private attorney. Instead, they get an attorney for free who represents their case. So there was this case, I don't know how much I should go into it, but I was once, actually there have been some times that I was on the other side where I was defending small businesses because they really couldn't afford to hire the big law firms that typically do a lot of the employment discrimination defense cases. So I have represented employers also. And there was one case where the client was an Asian restaurant owner who was accused of discriminating against this young white woman who claimed that she had recently converted to Islam. And she showed up at the restaurant with a hijab or well, he said it was just looked like a piece of cloth wrapped around her head, and he thought she was joking. And she said, "Can I wear this?" And he said, "No, yeah, I don't think you can wear this here." So she was like, "Oh, okay, I guess I can't work here then." So lo and behold, she like went home and complained to the EEOC and said that she was a victim of religious discrimination because she had just converted to Islam and the guy wouldn't let her wear the hijab there. So it became this whole mess of a federal lawsuit where I defended him. And I did feel, I don't know, I mean, I just feel like that was kind of like a screwed up case where, in my opinion, I felt like the young woman had probably set him up because she wanted to get money out of him. And the reason I feel that way is because these young people really need to realize how important social media is. I went crazy just searching for her on all these websites and Facebook groups and her friends' Facebook pages, and she wasn't a practicing Muslim at all. She was playing beer pong. She was out drinking out at the club, on Ramadan. I think she was out like horsing around at some club out in Charlotte or something. It was just hilarious because, in the pleadings and stuff, the EEOC decided that they were going to take on this case because I guess maybe that year they decided they really wanted to take religious discrimination against Muslims very seriously. So they decided they were going to represent her in this federal lawsuit. And so it just left me with a bad taste in my mouth. I was just like, good Lord, this woman, this young girl, she was a teenager at the time, in my mind, she was just lying about it through her teeth. And I found all these pictures of her clearly not acting like a Muslim. But then later they switched it around and said that, oh, well, she had a sincere belief in Islam at the time. Of course, she's not practicing anymore. I was like, yeah. So she was like a Muslim for 2 weeks, during that time that she went to the EEOC to complain about it. And then once she saw that there was no quick and easy money, she just reverted back to her regular ways. I mean, that would have been really funny to take it to trial, but ultimately we settled the case, and I'm not supposed to say anything more about the settlement. So that was one experience I had where I was on the other side and the EEOC had an attorney representing the alleged wrongfully terminated or discriminated against employee. Yeah. But but by and large, most of the time they don't have the staffing or they don't have the resources to have all these attorneys working on behalf of people. So that's why most of the time people have to scramble and find their own private attorneys. And there is just like a small group of us. I feel like I know almost all of the employment lawyers that do plaintiffs work in the whole state because we have our own continuing legal ed classes and conferences and listservs and stuff. And there is also an organization called NELA, the National Employment and Labor Attorneys Association. I think that's what it stands for. Yeah, I haven't really been active in it, but we did start up a chapter here recently. So let's see. Oh, okay. One of the reasons I gave up my tax prep business, everyone wants a refund, even if they spend 100% of their paycheck. One lady told me she didn't want to touch her savings and will pay when she gets paid. Oh, you mean pay you or pay the IRS? Because the IRS don't play, right? So, yeah. Well, that's too bad that you ended up closing down your business. Yeah, it's hard because I was just thinking the other day, I was like, yeah, I can imagine that CPAs, people that do accounting for individuals or small businesses, they probably get a lot of the same problems that I, as a solo practitioner attorney, get, which is that everybody just wants to call you up and email you whenever they have a quick question or have a problem. And of course, nobody's expecting to pay you for your time and expertise. And it gets really frustrating. That's why it's so much more helpful if you have like somebody that can answer the phones or deal with that for you to tell people that, hey, you're not even going to get some time with the professional unless you schedule a time and this is how much the consultation costs. Yeah, it's frustrating. Karen converted. Yeah, this is a true story, man. I mean, I could not believe it. I even went and looked up her whole family and stuff. There's so much information available online. So it turned out her father was something like a crook too. I mean, I guess that's not defamation to say, right? But so anyway, I looked up some information about her father. I went into the bankruptcy court records. It turned out that the father had been accused or sued for thousands of dollars that he owed to somebody up in New York regarding some other case. So in my mind, I felt that perhaps this young young white woman's father probably thought up of the scheme. Who knows? I mean, the whole thing just seemed so shady to me, her just going to work. And it turned out that she had used a different name when she went to go work at my client's restaurant. So that's why when he first got sued, he didn't even know who this person was. He was like, who is this person? Yeah, she did. She had a different last name or a different name when she worked for us. And she only worked there for like 2 weeks before she allegedly converted to Islam and then showed up with the cloth around her head and then said she couldn't work there anymore if she couldn't wear that thing on her head. So he really thought that she was just joking around, but that turned out to be a very costly lesson. The whole thing just really still makes me very annoyed thinking about the way that case turned out. Yeah. Okay. Yep. Yeah. I mean, can you believe that? That's why most attorneys ask for a retainer deposit up front, or, when I do Zoom consultations or phone consultations, my assistant tells them that they have to pay in advance of the scheduled time. I'm not going to give them the information and then they can decide whether or not they're going to pay. Yeah. I fixed that with Acuity in my current. Yes, exactly. I mean, you kind of learn your lessons after a while. It's like, okay, even these people that seem so nice and stuff, they still want to screw me over. They don't want to pay me. I did recently, well, I shouldn't say recently. Yeah, last year I had this couple of people who scheduled consultations with me and they did prepay, but then they later challenged the charges on their credit cards because they didn't like the information I gave them, because this is what's tough about doing employment law, is that most of the time you're giving people bad news, telling them that, look, I'm really sorry, but because of X, Y, and Z, you don't have a good legal claim. And I don't think this is something I can represent you in. And, this sounds like a case that's going to get thrown out on a motion for summary judgment, because you're not going to be able to prove blah, 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 and so these people got mad and then decided to dispute the charges on their credit cards. And it was just like such a total pain because I had to, deal with trying to prove the validity of the charges and show that I did, in fact, give the person a consultation. And the reason they're disputing the charges because they just didn't like my assessment of the case. So it's frustrating. I remember back when I worked at my last law firm, we also had there's somebody that came in for a consultation and I met with the person, and then later the check bounced because the person had paid for the consultation with a check. And when one of our admin ladies called up the person was like, oh, well, you had said that this firm would take on my case and you didn't hold true to that. So that's why, I didn't want to pay, and so ultimately I think the person did pay up when my boss threatened to file criminal charges against a person. But there were other times when, somebody gave us a check that bounced, or, somebody ran out of the office and claimed that he was going to go to the ATM down the street and then bring the payment. And then he never showed up. But we decided not to press criminal charges because it's just like a tremendous waste of our time further to try to chase after this person or to go to the police when people, cheat you out of money like that. But it happens. I mean, it's just kind of sad, but some people are just a bunch of crooks, and you just have to try to be as wise as you can and not be so trusting of people. Yeah. So, getting back to this whole EEOC thing. Yeah. So normally what happens is that after the investigator gets in touch with you, then of course they are going to get in touch with your employer and manager, see what witnesses you have. So this is where it gets a little scary because sometimes people, people will say, well, I don't want so-and-so at my job to know about it, or they'll start retaliating against me. And it's like, well, that's just what happens, because if you're still working there, they are going to find out if you filed an EEOC charge against them, because the investigator is going to need to contact everybody to get their side of the story. And then sometimes the witnesses won't back up the person because the witnesses are scared of reprisal, or they're desperately in need of their own job, so they don't want to cooperate. So it's really tough, like I said, to have a good case that's viable. And if the EEOC feels that your case does have some merit, that's where they will usually propose mediation and ask if you would be willing to go through a voluntary mediation with one of their mediators, who's like someone that's been specially trained in getting people to come to an agreement and reach a mutual resolution. So definitely, I always encourage people to go through mediation. It's just another great way to try to resolve things before having to take it to court, because going to court is really the last resort. Nobody really should want to go to court, even if they're piping hot mad about what happened to them. Going to court is very expensive. And I don't know of any employment lawyers that will do these kinds of cases on a pure contingency fee basis, which is like just saying, okay, I'll take whatever, 30% or 33% of any final, settlement or payout that we can get on a case. I mean, that's just way too risky, because these cases can just drag out for well over a year. And sometimes you find out that the case isn't as great as you thought it was going to be, or sometimes it turns out the clients lied or exaggerated and stuff. So that's why saying that you want to go to court no matter what, usually that's a pretty pretty outlandish thing to say. Yeah. So, okay. Got to run today. Okay, leave. Yeah, that's right. We should have told the guy to leave his keys or something. Yeah, this guy, oh my gosh, he was like shady as all get out. Yeah. I mean, he did seem kind of nice, but then there was something a little weird about him. Yeah. So then he just kind of ran out and never came back. And he owed us probably like, over $400 at that point. Yeah. Okay. Liz says, what do you think about the UC law schools, UC Berkeley? Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I definitely think those are all really great law schools, because, I went to UC Berkeley for undergrad and lived in the Bay Area for a while. So definitely, of course, UC Berkeley and UCLA would be the top ranked ones. And I do know some people that went to UC Davis. I don't know anyone that went to Irvine, because that's a relatively young or new law school. But I would much rather have you go there if you're in California and you pay in-state tuition than any of those other like much lower ranked lousy private law schools that they have around California, because I think California has at least 17 law schools, which is so excessive. And I know the job market isn't that great in California either, because I've heard of, friends that had difficulty finding jobs in California. Yeah. So if you're in state, then try to go to a UC law school. And of course, there's Hastings, which is where I went briefly before I went to Georgetown. So Hastings is I think it's a above average law school. When I went there, that's when everybody was just really upset, because it had fallen down from number, say, like 25 in the U.S. News and World Report rankings to number 45. So there is like this interesting news report. I think it's CBS, like a CBS News special report about how tough the legal job market is. And it's a video that you can find on YouTube, which came out probably about like 7 years or so ago. And back then the dean was Frank Wu, somebody that I knew from DC days. So the dean, Frank Wu, did say that 50% of the Hastings Law School students would not have jobs at the time of graduation. So I was like, wow, that's terrible. Well, he's the dean. I mean, why, what is he doing to help remedy that? Like, or are you just going to keep like taking in all these students, and they're like taking out tons of student loans and using all their family's money in hopes 50% chance of getting a job, Yeah. So definitely check that out. I think if you just do a YouTube search for like CBS unemployed lawyer, yeah, that video should come up, but it's very interesting to hear. Yeah. But otherwise, if you can get into the Berkeley Law School, it used to be called Bolt or UCLA, then definitely that should be pretty good. Yeah. Oh, thank you. Yeah, thank you, Min. Yeah, I'm using my Fifine, my handy dandy USB microphone, which I'm proud of. But I know it's not like the best, but hey, it's better than just using the laptop microphone. Yeah. Oh, my son is thinking about UC Davis. He got a good scholarship. Did your friend like Davis? That's funny. Yeah, well, I kind of lost touch with these people, but in one of my live streams, it's about like more great law school outcomes. Yeah, I did feature one of my old college friends, Tim Young, who is a partner at his own law firm, which is based in the Bay Area. He has an office also, I think, in Berkeley, maybe. Yeah. So he went to UC Davis after going to Berkeley for law school, or he went to Davis Law School. Yeah, and I think he did really well. I'm pretty sure that he first worked in the government as a government attorney, maybe with the state attorney general's office before he ended up having his own law practice with a bunch of other lawyers. So it sounds like he does employment law defense work. So yeah, it just really depends though, because in terms of the rankings, obviously the people that went to Berkeley or Stanford are going to get the top jobs over somebody that went to, say, like UC Davis or Hastings. There's definitely the hierarchy there. But I'm really happy to hear that your son got a scholarship. So that's really amazing. Yeah. And I had a cousin that went to UC Davis for undergrad, and then I visited UC Davis because that was another place that I had gotten into when I applied for college. So I really liked the UC Davis campus. It was a really long time ago though, but I remember just thinking like, it just had good vibes. It was a beautiful campus. And I seem to remember that they have a really good like agricultural department. So they have their own like, I don't know, gardens and fresh foods and make their own ice cream or something. They have cattle on campus. So yeah, I think that would be fine. Hopefully he can pay. Yeah, you said he got a good scholarship, but I don't know if he would be in state also. Yeah, but I definitely hope that he can graduate toward the top of the class, because it's still really important, like what your ranking is at a school like Davis, since it's not like Stanford, where you would assume that the vast majority of people that graduate from Stanford or Berkeley for law school are going to get really good, high-paying jobs. Yeah, but congratulations. I'm glad he got a scholarship. Yeah, saturation sounds like pharmacy. Lots of laughter. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I have a friend who went to pharmacy school around Philadelphia. I can't remember what the name of that pharmacy school was, but it was a private school, and she had tons and tons of debt afterwards. So it was just like a running theme. Like every time I talked to her, it just sounded like she was so beaten down having all this pharmacy school debt. But then ultimately, I think her dad might have inherited some money or something, and then her dad helped her pay off the rest of her debt. But it was an issue because even when she was dating somebody, her boyfriend even mentioned her debt as a real negative and said, like, look, if we get married, I'm not going to be able to help you pay off any of your debt. So yeah, I mean, it is really sad how like there's this domino effect. If you go to professional school and you take on a ton of debt, and then that also kind of is a detriment to your value in the dating world too, because like potential partners are scared away by your ton of debt. So yeah, but luckily everything worked out well for her. I mean, she ended up not marrying that guy, but it was interesting that he did bring up the fact that she had a ton of pharmacy school debt as one negative. So yeah, if I didn't get into my top 2 choice schools, but I did get into some respectable schools in my state with okay scholarships. Oh, well, that's great. Would you recommend waiting for a year and getting a better LSAT? Well, let's see. Respectable schools in your state. I guess you don't want to mention what the exact names of the schools are. Yeah, because I'm kind of like, well, what's the point of waiting a year? I mean, is it likely that you're going to really spend the whole entire year just grinding away and taking more practice LSATs or taking a prep course or really studying harder to do better on the LSAT? Because isn't the LSAT offered a lot more often now that you can take it online? I thought it was being offered like every few months now. And it also depends on, do you already have a decent job right now? So you would still be making money during this time that you're going to study harder for the LSAT. Yeah. Yeah, so it's just really hard to say, because if it's a respectable school with okay scholarships, I guess that's not the same as having a full ride scholarship though. And also it depends, like, are those scholarships for real, or are they conditional scholarships that can get taken away from you if you don't maintain a certain grade point average, or you're not at the very top of your class after your first year. So it's really hard to say. But as I mentioned to the other person, I guess Liz had asked a similar question about law schools. Like things are different. I guess I can't totally 100% generalize about the job market everywhere. I think the job market in general is pretty bad, but you might want to just try to reach out to try to find other people that are at those schools that you did get into and see what the situation is like in the job market. And was it hard for them to get internships during the summers, or do they have jobs lined up? And maybe try to find some recent graduates that will be willing to talk to you and give you the scoop on, what's the real deal on the employment statistics for that particular school. Yeah, because I'm just not sure if spending a whole year, is really going to get you a much higher LSAT score. But that's great. I mean, congratulations. At least you did get some scholarships from some schools. So almost all of my lawyer friends regret borrowing $200,000 to attend. Yep, they are almost clinically depressed. Yeah, totally. I mean, I can totally see that. I mean, I have this reaction video that is a reaction to some video from almost 8 years ago called Shit Unemployed Attorneys Say. And it's supposed to be half funny, but also it is really sad because it is true that this poor woman, I later found out that she did go to UC Berkeley for undergrad. So she went to Berkeley for undergrad and then wound up going to University of San Francisco for law school. And then she couldn't even find a job even after taking the bar exam and passing it. So she made this like kind of sarcastic video called Shit Unemployed Attorneys Say, where she's like reenacting a lot of things, like, talking about how she couldn't even get a document review job. And then she goes into a cafe and tries to ask to see if they're hiring, and they are not hiring. They have no jobs available. And then she starts telling her friends to come with her to a networking event and is begging them to come with her to go to some attorney networking event. And then she's asking how she can like reduce her law school loans. And then she's told it costs $2,500 a month, but that's only for one of her loans for repayment. So it is really sad. And I really caution people against this because there are some YouTubers out there that, they like making these like encouraging videos to say that everybody can go to law school. Don't let a low LSAT score get you down. Do you really have to get into a T14 law school to get a good job? Well, look at me. Those people are in the extreme minority, who were able to graduate from bottom tier law schools yet still get a job. And even then, you're kind of wondering like, okay, well, how about in 5 years? Are you still going to be even practicing law, or will you be one of the many people who washes out of the profession? So I really caution against even taking $100,000 of law school debt to go to below average or even average law school. Yeah, it's sad. I mean, what are they supposed to do? Like, they're not going to be able to buy a home, who knows if they're going to get married and be able to find a spouse that can help them pay off the debt or, help support them financially while they're doing document review. I don't know. Like, if you don't mind saying, what are your lawyer friends doing for a job now? Like, were they able to find decent jobs to help them pay off the loans? Yeah. So 200,000, is that typical? Yeah. Who would have thought that? It wasn't until, I started making these YouTube videos, then I started hunting around for some more up-to-date information about law school tuition. And I was like, wow, Georgetown law school tuition is now about $67,000 a year. And that doesn't even include your living expenses or, the cost of textbooks. The textbooks were ridiculously expensive. I remember paying like over $100 just for like one little book, or it's probably over $200 now for each textbook. You have to spend all that money plus living in the DC area, or wherever you're going to be living, the cost of living in addition to $67,000 a year for 3 years. And then most of the time, especially during the summer after your first year, most of the time people don't even get paid for their internships during the summer. So it really is more like some sort of privileged schooling that only like kids from very rich families can afford, unless you really want to roll the dice and then take out a huge ton of student loans to try to go to law school. Yeah, there are some private law schools that cost less, but they tend to be the lower ranked ones. Like, I've seen some private law schools charging about $45,000 a year. And then UNC Law School for in-staters is probably about $24,000 a year tuition. And then, you add in probably at least at least, $15,000 to $25,000 to that for your living expenses. If you have to rent an apartment, pay for transportation and food and textbooks and everything. Yeah, the cost of it is just so high. And the chances of you reaching that brass ring of, working for big law, starting salary of $200,000 plus bonuses, that's extremely low. Could you say why you don't trust the NALP stats? Law schools survey almost all of their graduating class. Usually they miss 3 or 5 people. It's encouraging to see high medians in the NALP report. Yeah, well, the statistics that I looked at, it was on a different website. It was something like irlg.org. So I'm not sure if that's also the same thing as the NALP statistics. Yeah, but I just feel like a lot of times they just say that the person is employed or employed in a JD preferred job, which typically is a code word for just doing document review, which is like a contract, no guarantee of continued employment, no benefits, a contract job that pays you about $22 to $25 an hour and could end at any time. So document review is definitely dead end, and that's not anything that people aspire to do when they go to law school. So just saying that, oh, well, whatever, I don't know, I'll just pull a number, like 80% of our graduating class is employed within 10 months of graduation, then you have to think like, okay, well, what percentage of them are in real full-time JD required attorney positions, as opposed to, oh, okay, wound up doing document review or doing some like fake research associate job that the law school made up. So, and then also just being employed doesn't mean that the person is employed at a well-paying job either. It could just be some like lousy job that pays like $45,000 or $40,000 to start, or, I don't know. I mean, sometimes you hear about people just doing totally non-legal jobs. So they are technically employed, but they might be, working at a bank or doing something else through their family connections or something because they couldn't find a real attorney position. Yeah. But, once again, it's kind of like hit or miss. Some people are going to get great jobs. Some people are going to think going to law school was the best thing that ever happened to them. But then there are a lot of people who are never heard from again, and they're not the ones that are going to stick their necks out and put it up on YouTube or talk personally, talk publicly about like, oh, okay, now I'm doing document review and I hate my life, or, I think about killing myself, or, I've applied to like 200 jobs and got rejected for all of them, or, there are too many people out there applying for the same jobs. Yeah. So definitely you want to try to get into as high ranked of a law school as possible, and also be in at least the top 10 to 20% of the graduating class to have a good chance at getting a real job that pays well too. So, oh, you got into TTU. Oh, okay. And Texas A&M. I was wanting to go to SMU, but I'll need scholarships to go there. Okay. Yeah. Well, I'm not from Texas, but I would probably pick Texas A&M over TTU because I've barely heard of TTU. And Texas A&M, actually, my ex-husband was a professor there before a long time ago. So I guess I've heard of Texas A&M because of him. Yeah. So I don't know. But the good thing is, like, let's say you go to Texas A&M, then maybe you'd be at the top of the class there, do you think? Yeah. Mm. And then it sounds like you would be able to pay in-state tuition there too, because it sounded like you got a partial scholarship. Yeah, so maybe Texas A&M, but I really have no idea what the job situation is like around there or for their alumni, since I'm not from Texas. So I would definitely encourage you to maybe, I know there's a Reddit forum for law students, so maybe you can post there and say, hey, I'm interested in hearing your thoughts. Anyone in Texas, what's the job what are the job prospects like for people that graduate from Texas A&M Law School? Yeah, so you need some insider information, and unfortunately, I don't have that for Texas. So yeah, but congratulations. I'm glad at least you got a partial scholarship there. Full price in-state. Yeah. Actually, I did see that recently, that even the UC system, the law school rates are ridiculous, even for in-staters. That's still a lot of money. Yeah. Well, hopefully he can get a decent job. Yeah. So, because I don't know a ton of people that went to UC Davis for law school. So I mentioned that friend Tim, who I talked about in my more Great Law School Outcomes live stream. So he did well. But I do recall I had a good friend at Berkeley whose older brother had gone to UC Davis for law school. And it just seemed like his brother had a big struggle finding decent jobs. Like he was always working for like small law firms that he hated. And then last I heard, he has his own law practice, like probably around Santa Cruz or something. Although I looked at his website and it looked like the website had been totally like abandoned or not well kept up or something. Yeah. So it just really depends. Like some people just really are lucky and interview well and they're at the top of their class and they get on the main law review and they get great internships and have a job lined up at graduation. So I don't really know what the statistics are for employment for UC Davis. Unfortunately, I threw away my printouts about the the job employment prospects for different law schools because I didn't think I needed it anymore. But I'm sure that information is available on the UC Davis Law School admissions website. Yeah. So so best of luck to him. I mean, that's still a good school. Yeah. Are you familiar? Yes, Washington Lee. Oh, okay. Yeah. Because my first boss, who has his own practice up in Tyson's Corner in Northern Virginia near DC. So he graduated from Washington and Lee Law School also. Of course, that was like ages ago, like in the 1980s. Yeah. So that's a really good law school. But then he would have to pay out of state tuition, right? So that would be really expensive. Yeah. So it depends on where your son wants to practice, because if you guys are in California and he plans on coming back to California, then he might as well go to UC Davis. Yeah. Because otherwise, Washington and Lee probably has little to no clout in California. Like people probably don't even know what it is, or, it's not going to help him to have graduated from Washington and Lee if he wants to later move back to the West Coast. Yeah. So, but at least Washington and Lee has a good reputation around, Virginia and the DC area, around there. So, yeah, but I'm not really, I actually, even though I practiced in Virginia briefly, I didn't meet a lot of people that graduated from that particular law school. Yeah. So I'm not sure where most of their graduates wind up. Yeah. But if your son has to pay out of state tuition there and he doesn't intend on staying in the Virginia DC area, then I would probably say go to UC Davis. Yeah. So, okay, great. So right now, oh, it's already 7:20. I can't believe I've been like talking for so long and everything. Yeah. But if anybody has any other questions or questions about employment law and everything, I had talked about how there might be a mediation scheduled in the EEOC process if they think that your case has some modicum of merit. And then at the mediation, usually you would go back and forth meeting with the mediator, and the mediator kind of jumps between rooms, like everybody's in a meeting room together, or they might start in separate rooms altogether. So you might not ever have to see the managers, the alleged wrongdoers. It just depends. Like if your client really doesn't want to be in the same room with the evil management, then you can request that you guys start off and remain in separate meeting rooms. So usually the mediation takes at least half a day, if not a whole day. And I have had cases settle at mediation, which was always really great. Your goal is always to try to settle the case instead of dragging the case further, because litigation, you're still rolling the dice and you don't know if you're going to end up winning the case either. So yeah. Okay. Ken says, thanks for the advice. He doesn't really know. Oh, he doesn't know where he wants to live. Yeah. But usually, eventually wouldn't you like your child to move back to wherever you are? Right. Because I see that happening with a lot of my friends, like as we all get older and then the parents start having health problems or parents need help and stuff, then usually you would hope that the kids would end up moving back to wherever the parents are or moving closer or something. Yeah. So it does really depend on, what the family expectations are, or whether he wants to come back and help you guys out, or, where he would really like to live and practice. Yeah. Because I think that both UC Davis and Washington and Lee, like the reputations are more regional. So for example, someone that graduates from UC Davis and then tries to get a job in New York City, probably isn't going to fare too well, because there are so many other schools competing for that job market. Why would they want to hire somebody that went to UC Davis? You don't have any alumni connections or anything, And same thing with Washington and Lee. It would be hard for him to get a good job, right after graduating from Washington and Lee if he wants to go back to work in California. Yeah. Oh, wish your kids would move back. Oh, okay. Well, maybe they'll change their mind. Like if your kids have kids, usually it's when they need help with their kids and they're like, oh, who's going to give us some free childcare? Oh, grandma and grandpa. So let's move back, or have grandma and grandpa come and move in with us or move closer to us. Yeah, you never know what will happen in the future, right? So, okay. Well, I kind of feel like I've already talked for long enough and stuff, and haven't seen any other questions about this whole EEOC process. But ultimately, if the case doesn't settle or if they don't even offer to mediate, then the EEOC will eventually issue what's called a right to sue letter. And sometimes people call me or contact me and they seem kind of excited saying that I got a right to sue letter. But that doesn't really mean anything. It means nothing about the merits of the case. It just means that they're done with their investigation. They weren't able to find that there was any slam dunk case of job discrimination or violation of the law. So here's your letter, and you have 90 days to file a lawsuit if you want to. So that's when it usually is kind of like a panicky time where people are scrambling around trying to find an attorney to file a lawsuit for them before that 90-day deadline runs out. And for that reason, again, that's why I always tell people it's better to go ahead and consult with an attorney, even if you don't hire the attorney right away. Consult with the attorney as soon as you feel like your rights have been violated or you've been discriminated against, because it's really, really hard to find someone who's willing to look through your case and also draft up a complaint and file it for you when you have your 90 days to, already ticking. Yeah. So most of the time, these kinds of cases are filed in federal court because you're making federal claims to the civil rights violations of Title VII of the Civil Rights Act. Although it is possible to go ahead and file it first in state court, and then the defendant might then file to remove the case to federal court later, which typically happens. But at least in that situation, the employer would be the one paying that whopping big federal court filing fee, which is at least $300 now. So, okay. So okay. Missed some comments here. I always tell people that my brothers and sisters and I get along great because we live far away. Yeah, sometimes you do. Absence makes the heart grow fonder, right? Yeah, you don't want to be in each other's faces. Yeah. But like I said, if there might be grandkids in the future, that might be when your kids start coming around and start being more appreciative and actually want to be around you. Yeah. Thanks for that advice. I wasn't sure if it would be better to wait to get into a better school. SMU has a very high employment rate. Yeah. But Texas A&M, once again, just try to find some alumni, like people who are younger that just graduated within the last 5 years. Find them online, try to send them an email or even call them if they have a website, to ask for their opinion. I mean, if somebody contacted me and wanted to talk about going to Georgetown or whatever, if they already got in, then most likely I would be fine with that, just give them my story or tell them about my YouTube videos. Yeah. Looks like Texas is growing, probably a good market for lawyers in the future. Yeah, maybe. Yeah. My son also thinking of SMU, good employment stats, but lots of money to go. Yeah. Well, there is this, you guys might have already seen this other legal YouTuber's channel. Her name is Angela Vorpal. I'll put her name up here because it's a little hard to spell her last name. Yeah. So Angela actually went to SMU Law School, I'm pretty sure, because when I started my YouTube channel, I was starting to, just check out what other lawyers there are on YouTube and what kind of topics they were covering, and hoping that they would also subscribe to me. But she's such a big channel. Of course, she doesn't have time to watch my stuff or subscribe to me. But Angela has really made a name for herself, but she doesn't practice law anymore. From what I've gathered, I think she graduated from SMU at the top of her class. So she was able to clerk for a federal judge and then got a job working for a big firm in Dallas, I think, somewhere in Texas, and then she transferred to their office in New York City. So a lot of her videos are about, how much she made working for the big law firm in New York City and how she spent her salary and how to get a job, what's life like in a big law firm. But it sounds like she quit and she's not even working as an attorney anymore, but now she has this kind of like a law student consulting business. So I think that's the basis, or that's the reason for her YouTube channels, is because she's trying to get clients, to learn about law school and think about, how great it is, and that they're probably also going to be able to get these like big corporate law firm jobs like she did, and then, pay her to be the consultant, I guess, you know, yeah. So if you wanted to find out more about SMU, maybe you could like check out Angela's website or Angela's YouTube channel and see if she would respond to you, or other people might respond to you who know more about that law school or the job market in Texas. Yeah. Yeah, mom and dad, I got it. I know. Isn't that great? Yeah, because I don't know if you were on one of my other live streams where I mentioned there's like a friend of mine was selling his kind of old house near downtown Raleigh. And these like older parents both got in a bidding war trying to buy this older house for their sons, and these are like sons that were probably like in their 20s or early 30s, but mom and dad were going to buy a house for the kid. And one of the parents, their kid was an underemployed attorney who couldn't find a job. So I guess he was just like doing some court appointed criminal work or something. Yeah. So yeah, hopefully your kids won't, or your child won't continue to be a financial burden on you. Yeah. We just want them to be financially independent and not come back and hide out in your basement or something and be a financial drag on you forever. Right. Yeah. So, okay. Well, I guess, oh, okay. Yeah. So you have seen her channel. Yeah. So she would definitely know, I'm not even sure if she really has that much time to respond to individual comments or something, because she's such a big YouTube channel with so many people commenting on all her videos and stuff. Yeah. But that was interesting to hear because, since I'm not from Texas, I never really heard much or thought much about SMU. But since she graduated at the top of her class, then she did have those great employment options available to her. So she was able to, get those prestigious jobs and the federal clerkship and stuff. So life is always better when you can be at the top of the class, right? But 90% of the people are not going to be at the top of the class. So, okay. Well, with that, it looks like a lot of people have dropped off and everything, but I do appreciate you guys for joining in today's live stream. And we'll have another live stream next Sunday, where I'm thinking about talking more about child support law as it relates to sports and figure skating, based on a lawsuit that I read about. Oh, thank you so much, Michael. Yeah, hope to see you back in the Google Meets or the our Facebook group of content creators then. Thanks for joining in. Okay, so I hope you guys all have a great week and hope you'll join in next week's live stream show then. Thanks for being here.